what is going on, people? Mark from Double Clutch Auto Reviews here. Thank you so much again for tuning in for another review video. Today I am here with the all-new 2023 BMW XM, BMW's only M-designated chassis hybrid electric luxury SUV. Before we dive into the review of the XM, I just have to say, if you're a fan of the channel, please leave me a thumbs up down below and also consider subscribing to my channel. The subscription is free to you, it costs you nothing, and it really helps me out to grow, so I sincerely appreciate it. Also hit that notification bell so you can see every time I upload a new video. Thank you so much. I also have to thank BMW of Fort Lauderdale for letting me borrow this XM for the entire day. They are a beautiful Holman dealership located here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. They have a huge inventory with several XMs in stock right now, including this one that you see right in front of you is also for sale. And the Holman Motorcars group have dealerships that range from everything from Hondas and Toyotas all the way up to Bugattis and Rolls-Royce. So they have everything under their umbrella. If you want to check out what they have down here at BMW of Fort Lauderdale, I will put all of their contact information, including their website links, phone numbers, and address in the description below. So now, diving into the XM, this is BMW's ultimate flagship Halo M luxury SUV, or I'm sorry, SAV as BMW calls it, which stands for Sports Activity Vehicle. And as I said earlier, this is an M-only designated chassis. For instance, you can't get like an XM340i. And I must say, this vehicle has actually been quite controversial overall with everyone's opinions, but I don't think it necessarily deserves all of the flack that people are giving it, but I'm going to show you all around the XM, and I want you to let me know what you think of the XM in the comments below. And we'll start this tour off with under the hood. This BMW XM is powered by a 4.4-liter twin turbocharged V8 mated to a plug-in hybrid electric system, making a total combined horsepower of 644 horsepower at 5,400 RPMs and 590 pound-feet of torque at 1,600 RPMs. This 4.4-liter twin turbo V8 has been upgraded from the previous engine model with a reinforced crankshaft, upgraded turbos, and an electronic blow-off valve. They've also added a cross-bank exhaust manifold that helps with thermal regulation and keeping that engine cooler. And around 500 of this car's horsepower is produced by the combustion motor, the rest is by the hybrid electric system. And this power plant is mated to a ZF 8-speed shiftable automatic transmission with paddle shifters and the electric motor built into the drivetrain system, and it powers all four wheels through BMW's xDrive all-wheel drive system. It does a claimed 0 to 60 of 4.1 seconds, but there have been some tests that I have seen that have shaved a couple of tenths off that 0 to 60 time, bringing it under the 4-second mark. This is the most powerful BMW ever produced, but the catch is it's also the most expensive, with a starting MSRP of $160,000 US. And it's also the heaviest BMW ever made, tipping the scales at 6,062 pounds, so it's quite a hefty son of a gun. Yet being the most powerful BMW ever produced, it is not the quickest, and it's not even the quickest BMW M SUV that they make. And that is due to, of course, its weight. The Alpina XB7, the X5M competition, and the X6M competition all have a similar powertrain to this without the plug-in hybrid system, of course, and they're making slightly less horsepower. Yet they are all considerably lighter, cheaper, even the Alpina that starts at 150 grand, and they are all faster, shaving even more tenths of a second off the 0 to 60 time. It goes to show that the weight to power ratio really does matter, and even though the XM is an absolute powerhouse in and of itself, but compared to the X5M and X6M and the Alpina XB7, I feel like they could have squeezed a little bit more horsepower out of this plug-in hybrid system, because those cars don't have that. The plug-in hybrid system in this car adds a lot of extra weight, I think around 750 pounds. That's a lot of heft to add to this. So I feel like BMW really should have taken advantage of that system and squeezed even more horsepower to make up for that weight. A positive about the XM though, in its specific chassis and drivetrain, is that it has 48-volt active anti-roll bars and adaptive suspension, not air suspension though. And what's cool is the anti-roll bar in the rear can actually stiffen up more than the one in the front. So going around a corner, you actually can get some oversteer rather than understeer. That allows for a more controllable and a more rewarding spirited driving experience. And not to mention taking a look at the engine bay, I actually think it looks pretty cool under here. Yes, the engine does have a plastic engine cover, which no one wants, but the dual air intakes look pretty cool. You can also see some of the wires from the hybrid electric system running down under here, and I think the strut tower braces look really sweet, almost giving me like a spiderweb kind of a vibe the way that they're structured like this. Some competitors of the XM in this high-end luxury performance SUV segment are the Lamborghini Urus, the Audi RSQ8, the Porsche Cayenne Turbo, the Aston Martin DBX 707, and even the Bentley Bentayga V8. Now the XM isn't necessarily more expensive than all of those, but it is heavier. However, don't count out the XM just yet, because BMW is releasing an even higher horsepower edition of the XM called the XM Label in the 2024 model year. Yes, I know it was called the Label Red, but apparently it's not the Label Red anymore, and it wasn't ever the Red Label, so just to clarify all that. But the XM Label now is going to come with the red trim accents to the exterior and the upholstery and whatnot, and that's going to differentiate the XM Label trim compared to the regular XM. But what's really going to differentiate it is the power level that the XM Label is getting. They're going to give it 738 horsepower and 738 pound-feet of torque across the board, giving it a 0 to 60 of 3.6 seconds. So take that, X5M competition. Problem is, of course, the starting MSRP of the XM Label is going to be $185,000 US. And it's going to go well above that with options, I'm sure. So absolutely massive money for the XM Label, but you are getting massive performance and massive luxury from BMW. I'm actually really excited to see when that comes out. Maybe BMW of Fort Lauderdale will get one and let me review it. Let me know down in the comments below if you'd like to see that. What's really cool in my opinion about the current XM's drivetrain, I'm sure that will transfer over to the XM Label trim as well, is that this can be operated in fully electric mode. On fully electric power, the XM can go around 31 to 50-ish miles or around 50 to 80-ish kilometers depending on which rating system you use. What I've heard most people are getting are around 30 miles. Another really neat trick is that the XM has an eCONTROL mode, which essentially holds the electric battery power for you until you want to use it or you absolutely have to use it. Essentially, you can kick it on when you want to activate the full potential of the hybrid drivetrain system, or you can kind of store it, save it for an emergency. Let's say you run out of gas, you can use that to get home. That's actually a pretty cool feature. The XM also allows for a little bit of regenerative braking, so it recharges the hybrid battery system, but you're not really going to get much use out of it driving on flat roads. It's only really going to work for you if you're going downhill. Another neat feature about the hybrid drivetrain system is that the power level is not withheld up until the moment that you lose all hybrid battery electric power. So it gives you all it's got with its full acceleration up until that point where you cross that barrier of losing all of your charge. Once you lose that, then you lose that extra oomph behind it, but it gives you all it's got up until that point. And now, the exterior styling. It's quite polarizing. Couldn't have guessed that one, right? But it's undeniable that this XM is bold, imposing, and commands your attention with its road presence. And whether it's in a good way or a bad way, the XM definitely stands out as its own entity compared to the rest of the BMW lineup or other SUVs out there. This thing looks different. For instance, the X5M competition is a pretty good looking SUV overall, and it's definitely sportier and better looking than the regular X5, right? However, it doesn't look that different compared to each other to the untrained eye. This thing, however, though, makes a statement. It demands you to look its way while it's driving out on the road. And that's exactly what BMW was going for with their target audience when building the XM. They said it's unapologetically styled. You could take that as you will. But they also said that it was built for extroverts, people that want attention. That's definitely true too. You will of course form your own opinion about the XM. I've heard people love it, I've heard people hate it. And I will say, I'm not just saying this to be nice, I actually think it looks cool. No, it's not beautiful, it's more so bizarre, but it absolutely catches your eye in one way or another. You cannot deny that it just looks expensive and futuristic. And I also respect the fact that BMW took risks with the styling of this car. They didn't settle for boring, they settled for bold. One of these accentuated styling aspects is the side profile gold trim line coming around the whole side of the car that is undeniably an homage to the legendary M1. The XM is also the only other designated only M car since the M1 came out. Another little homage to the M1 on the XM are the BMW logos that are etched into the glass on the rear windshield. That's actually really cool. You can see right here in the back of the M1 they had the BMW logos on each side, so they implemented that on the XM into the glass. That's pretty cool though. But you don't get the traditional center BMW logo right in the middle of the tailgate, pretty much like on every other BMW ever made. So people have been saying that the XM badge kind of in the middle, off to the left a little bit, looks a little weird because of that. Paying more tribute to the M1, there's also a sneaky little Easter egg inside the gauge cluster. If you go to your tire pressure monitoring system, you can see right there, that's not an XM, that's an M1. Funny little touch right there, BMW. Doesn't really make sense. They didn't have to do that, but they chose to, which is funny to me. Another interesting aspect of the XM in general is all of the gold trim. We have the gold trim around both kidney grills, of course. We also have gold 23-inch wheels. I mean, look at these things. These things are huge. I actually personally like the gold, especially on a car like this. I think it actually contrasts really well with this Toronto red paint. I would personally probably get one of the other colors that they have. They have so many options for exterior paint colors, which I absolutely love. My favorite colors are Marina Bay Blue, Isle of Man Green, or Frozen Tulum Blue. That is a $5,500 paint option. That's a really expensive paint job, but I just love the fact that BMW gives you all of those paint options from the factory. You can spec this thing out to be as crazy colored as you want. If you don't like the gold though, you can get a blackout package, which I think dulls it down, makes it a little bit more boring, but someone might not want to stand out as much. But why would you get an XM? Anyway, another fun little touch about these 23-inch wheels is that you can see it has a center hubcap, but it's not weighted like a Rolls-Royce. We wouldn't expect that. It's not what I'm saying. But the Rolls-Royce is weighted so the RR is always facing up when you look at it from the side. The BMW logo doesn't have a weight on it, so it just stays where it is. But if you park the XM and you want to just take it and rotate it, so the BMW logo is flush parallel with the ground, so you can make your BMW XM look like it has weights in the bottom of the wheel badges, just like a Rolls-Royce. If these massive 23-inch gold wheels are too much for you though, you can opt out for something a little bit more boring and not as fun and get 22-inch wheels instead, which are also just huge in general. Something that is not huge on the XM that I'm very happy about is the fact that the kidney grills don't extend all the way down to the bottom of the front bumper like a lot of other BMW models have been lately. At least they kept the kidney grills to right here. So I'm thankful for that. Another neat little touch that I love about the front bumper is this functional air curtain right here that helps with brake cooling and aerodynamics. And speaking of the crazy amount of colors that you can get with the XM, there's also a few interior color options as well that you can choose from. This XM has the Silverstone color option in the interior, which is kind of like an off-white or a very light gray with the vintage coffee full merino leather, and it looks absolutely exquisite in here. The full merino leather extends all over the dashboard and on the headliner, but it actually stops halfway down the B-post and whatnot, and then it reveals hard plastic along the lower half of the car. But I actually don't mind that. I really wouldn't want leather right there. Probably would get pretty messed up over time, you know, coming in and out of the car with your shoes and whatnot. But overall, the leather just feels so nice. It has a very porous feel to it, almost like a very expensive leather jacket. It is truly something else. I am also a huge fan that bright exterior and interior colors of cars are making a big comeback. Back in the 80s and 90s, interiors that had like all red or all blue kind of were known as like the grandpa or grandma cars, and I feel like a lot of that generation just really hated it because it just reminded them of their grandpa's car. And for the longest time, every car's interior was black, gray, or beige if you wanted to be daring. But now all these cars are coming out with all these crazy colors inside and out, and I'm a big fan. Being a car enthusiast or just having a cool car in general, your car is kind of an extension of your personality a little bit. That's what a lot of people say, and I agree with that. So I feel like this allows people to express themselves more with their paint options. And especially for a car like this, it is a nice change of pace from everything just being dreary and boring or dark, black, gray, nothing exciting. This is exciting. A few more exciting aspects on the exterior of the XM are the vertically stacked quad exhaust tips. These are pretty controversial. I've heard a lot of people don't like them. I actually think they look really good. BMW is trying to look like Lexus a little bit, it seems like, but not as much of a diagonal angle. These are pretty straight on top of each other rather than Lexus's. And lastly, before moving on to the interior, I absolutely love the door handles with this geometric design pattern on them. Definitely looks and feels nice when you go to open up the door. And you will see when we go into the interior that they carry that design aspect a lot to the inside of the XM. All right, now climbing on into the interior of the XM. When you first open the door, you are greeted by the welcome tone, and then the M colors light up all over the ambient lighting, including the headliner and all around the car. And your specific BMW XM shows in the center stack. That's pretty cool. Very welcoming in a luxurious way. And as I already said, this interior is just absolutely exquisite as far as I'm concerned. Some people have been kind of wishy-washy about it. I think it's really, really nice. To add to the Silverstone and the full vintage merino leather, we have a lot of carbon fiber trim on the center console and around the center stack, around the gauge cluster and whatnot. We also have the M color stitching inside the steering wheel and on the seat belts. Very cool M touch. This XM is also equipped with the Bowers & Wilkins sound system, which is a $3,400 option. Right away, I feel very comfortable in these seats, and not only are they multi-way power adjustable, but the side and shoulder bolstering is all adjustable. Check this out. You push this lever right here, and the side bolstering actually squeezes your abdomen to hug you in place more. I mean, that is awesome. You can also push this lever, and as you can see, the backrest is pushing forward. So if I want a more comfortable driving position where I can really lean back into the headrest, I can find that exact point where I want to be. That is really nice. Moving on to the steering wheel, has a nice 9-3 grip. I also really like the carbon fiber shift paddles and of course the M1 and M2 button. Those are both configurable drive modes that you can set to whatever settings you want, and to change them, it's literally at your fingertips. You don't have to take your hands off the wheel. Just push M1 or M2 to get to the exact drive mode that you want right in that moment. The gauge cluster and the center stack are both connected with this huge screen right here, but it looks really sharp and it's all configurable, of course. Cycling through all of our gauge cluster functions, you can see all of your engine vitals, sport displays, you can see your horsepower and torque that you're using in real time. I also really like this. You have a G-force meter. Check that out. That's pretty cool to see. You can also cycle through all your music and whatever else you want to see right here. You can also easily go to your heads-up display configuration, and you can cycle through this menu to show exactly what you want. Moving on to the infotainment system, I actually really like this. It responds very well to my touch. It's super responsive and quite intuitive. It is a touchscreen, but if you don't feel comfortable using the touchscreen, if you don't feel like leaning over and touching this while you're driving and whatnot, you can also use this dial control pad right here and cycle through it very easily that way. Moving down below that, we have our wireless phone charger, another USB port, a 12-volt outlet, and our cup holders, which are heated and cooled. I mean, what? I am not used to this kind of luxury. I would love to have that in my car. And yes, I am totally a sucker for the headliner. I just think this thing is so spectacular. Is it a little gimmicky? Yeah, I guess. But is it still absolutely astonishing to look at? Of course. And I tell you what, everyone that opens that door is gonna go, wow. Like, it really is a spectacle to look at. The only problem is, though, you don't get a sunroof with it, but to be honest, I think I'd rather have this just for the sheer wow factor. And of course, you can change it to any color you can imagine. I think that headliner and all the other touches bring this interior to the next level. The backup camera and 360-degree top-down camera also work phenomenally in this car. Check this out. I can clearly see all the obstacles, the cars around me. Very effective and helpful when backing up. And if you really want to get in depth, you can push the camera button while parked and it brings up the camera menu. You can push more and then go into 3D view mode. Looking around, you can click on every single one of these angles of the camera. Check this out. You can see all around the XM. How cool is this camera system? One thing that I'm not a fan of, though, is how you have to use the climate controls. Of course, there's no knobs and switches like there should be. Come on, BMW. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But nonetheless, to go into the climate controls, you have to go into the climate menu, and that brings up this page right here. But all the dials kind of look the same, and it's a little bit confusing. I mean, sure, with time, you get used to it, but right at first glance, it's kind of hard to figure out what exactly you want to push to get the feature that you want. Of course, you can just push auto, and that takes care of everything, but I just wish these climate controls were easier to change and figure out right at first glance. To turn the temperature up and down, though, that's easy. There is a dedicated section of the touchscreen right here where you can just tap, 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 and go up or down as you please. Fan speed, though, you're out of luck. You have to go into this menu and click the fourth icon down to tap, 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 and tap, 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 tap to go up or down with the fan speed. I will say, though, BMW did do something right and put their max defrost button right here as its separate button, so if your windshield's all frosted up in the winter, we don't have that problem down in Florida, though. But if you need to defrost your windshield, you just push that button and it turns it right onto the max. Some other fun little touches in the infotainment system are the gesture control. For someone like me, that might not be the best thing as I talk with my hands a lot, but for instance, if you want to turn the volume up in the XM, you wave your finger like this this, and that brings the volume up and down. That's pretty cool. I know BMW's done that in the past, but nonetheless, it's cool to still see. What I also thought was really funny, if you go into the seat comfort menu, the BMW also gives you seat operating tips, and it's actually little videos that instruct you on how to position yourself properly while driving. I think that's very useful, but still really funny that they went through all this effort to put that into the infotainment system. I'll play you a little bit of this one right now. Check it out.
Adjusting the height allows you to optimize your all-round view. Raise the seat so that you can see past the hood and to the road. The distance between your head and the headliner should be at least 2 fingers.
All right, enough of that. Now let's go on to the rear seat of the XM, which they call the M Lounge. Okay, now climbing onto the rear seat of the XM, or otherwise known as the M Lounge. And first of all, I have leg room for days. I am extremely comfortable back here. Another very awesome touch that they're pretty proud of is they used the leather to wrap around the seat post, so there's no hard plastic right here. It's comfortable all the way to the end of the seat post. When you close the door, you just have leather all around you. Really, really nice touch, I must say. Also, just taking a look up at the headliner, I mean, look at this, guys. And this is just something else. To lean back and sit back here, I am a big fan. For the other amenities in the rear seats, we have tri-zone climate controls, of course, with heated rear seats, not vented though. And we have a storage compartment, a 12-volt outlet, 2 USB ports. You would think there'd be more back here. Don't fret just yet. There's this little contraption that you can lift up, and that reveals yet another USB port and some kind of mounting mechanism that I'm sure you could probably put, you know, an iPad or a tiny little TV screen right here for your rear seat passengers. For the center armrest though, you pull this down, it reveals 2 cup holders, but they are not heated or cooled. Bummer. What's awesome about the rear of the XM is they easily could have slapped the 3rd row in the back there, but they chose not to really focus on the comfort of the M Lounge. And now moving on to the rear of the XM, we of course have an automatic lift gate. Push the button, opens right up for you. The most interesting thing in the back of the XM though is this XM bag, which almost looks like a leather designer purse that you would get at any one of those designer fashion stores. And this is actually the bag that holds the charging cable for the car. What's unfortunate about the XM is that the rear deck lid does not open up. You can't access anything under here. This is all probably filled up with hybrid battery stuff and whatnot. So they give you this rather nice bag to store your charging cable in. It also comes with this M strap right here, so you can tether it to one of the mounting hooks back here, and it almost looks like a mini version of the seatbelt. That's pretty interesting. And I know a lot of people are making fun of this thing, and I get that totally, but I think it's a neat little accessory that you get when you spend $160,000 on a car. What do you think? Does it go with my eyes? Next to that, we have a 12-volt outlet and a bunch of tie-down hooks. You can see one on each corner, but what you won't notice back here is any button, lever, or switch of any sort to automatically fold the rear seats down from the back. That's kind of rare to see in a car this expensive in a luxury SUV class. To me personally, I don't think that's that big of a deal, but if you're, for instance, trying to load some big heavy object quickly and you just really need to put the rear seats down, you can quickly push the button and throw it in. I doubt that anyone's really going to be doing that in a car like this, but just something to note that you would probably get that in a lesser trim luxury SUV. You don't get that in the XM. What you do get in the XM though, and I really like this feature, is this full coverage privacy cover. It's in 2 pieces. One is connected to the tailgate, and one you can easily pop in and pop out right here. So when you close the tailgate, you can't see anything back there. You can also store things on this little deck lid, light items obviously, but I really like that it comes with a full privacy cover. You can also see that the geometric design pattern from the headliner and the door handles is incorporated into the tailgate right here. Sure, cool, whatever. I don't really care about that. No one ever sees that, so I guess that was just an extra flex to slap that up there. The cargo space for the XM is rated for 18.6 cubic feet with all the seats in place. I'm sure you also probably have to remove this full privacy cover. That probably takes up a good couple of cubic feet. But with all of the seats folded down and the privacy cover removed, you have a max cargo capacity of 64.3 cubic feet. You might think that's a lot, but it's actually not, especially considering the size of this gargantuan SUV. That's pretty poor cargo space. Yet again though, something that I bet XM buyers really won't care about. And the last thing I'd like to mention before we take this beast out on the road for a spin are both of the keys you can get. This is the traditional key fob you can get. It's piano black with the M colors right here. Looks pretty nice and upscale overall. We have our tailgate button, panic alarm, and our unlock button on the sides, and our lock button, which is the BMW logo, right in the center. If you push the BMW logo 3 times, the remote starts the car. What I found, though, that was really interesting to me was this BMW M digital key. I mean, check this thing out. It looks basically like a credit card, but you can program this to essentially be a key that you can share with people, maybe even use it as like a valet key. I don't know if you can tune the horsepower down or limit the speed you can go as if you were using it for a valet service, but that's a pretty neat little feature there. If you don't need the key fob, you can just have this credit card digital key. And before we get the XM out on the road for a spin, let's hear how the horn sounds. Alrighty folks, now jumping in and taking out the all-new XM for a spin. Fire this bad boy up. Whoa. So something that I really like that I noticed is I set the bolstering of this seat to really hug me, so it's nice and snug, you know, as a M car should be. But when you turn the car off, the bolstering actually opens up, so it's easier for you to get out, as if, you know, the telescoping steering wheel raises itself up and the seat lowers. You know, you've seen that in a million cars, right? But the bolstering actually opens up as well, so it's easier for you to get in and out of the car. It's a really nice touch, BMW. So something else that I noticed that I regret to report is the fact that this has such low miles. Is at like 33 miles right now? 38, I'm sorry, 38 miles. And the power is limited until 310 miles. So I'm not gonna get the full 644 horsepower out of this beast, but you know what? We'll still have fun with it, and I'll show you what it's got below that 310 mile benchmark to do the break-in period. I also have my M1 and M2 buttons completely set up, so M1 is full sport, no holding back, turned up all the way to 11, and then my M2 is in full comfort, as comfortable as this car can get. So of course we're gonna start off in M1 mode. You hear the engine kick on just like that. So I'm in full Sport Plus mode right now, and the shifts are a little slow. I'm not really sending it right now. I'm waiting for the car to warm up a bit, of course. The shifts take probably about a half a second before they respond. For instance, I'm gonna downshift. It's like a good click and then shifts. But it is certainly not immediate like you would expect out of a top tier M car, unfortunately. All right, let's open it up a little bit of an open road. Here we go. Oh, I'm limited to a lot of RPMs, unfortunately. So right now, my tachometer is limited to around 4,500 RPMs, and even though it revs all the way out to 8,000, it seems like, the red line right now is right around 5K. I'm sure that will obviously increase when you get past that break-in period, but unfortunately right now, I'm limited to about half throttle. God, look at the interior lighting right now. Oh my God. We're in a tunnel, and all you see is the ambient lighting on the headliner. Beautiful, really. The heads-up display is also really crisp, easy to read. I have it as my speedometer right now. As you literally just heard, I'm going 36 in a 35, and it's dinging at me. That needs to be turned off. All right, let's try launch control. 3, 2, 1, go. Unfortunately, you can absolutely tell that the car is limited in its power. That did not feel like 644 horsepower at all. I'm happy to report that the BMW turn signal is perfectly fine. It's not that weird one where it goes back to its resting place once you hit it. Works just as it should, thankfully. At highway speeds, it cruises very nicely. Even in full Sport Plus mode, everything turned up to the max, I feel quite comfortable in here. People were also complaining about the harsh ride, and I completely disagree. This feels very comfortable to me and stable over bumps. Launch control, 3, 2, 1, go. Lift off. Come on. There we go. A little traction. Breaking loose a smidge. I wish the shifts were a little bit more crisp. They're a little jerky. So as far as the cornering goes, steering's nice and heavy, but you certainly feel the weight of the car, I meant, not the steering. As far as the onset or dead spot goes, I have about maybe a ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch of play before the steering actually does something when I turn the wheel. It's overall relatively direct, but you know, nothing astonishing. Unfortunately, I kind of expect astonishing out of an M car. This time, I think I'm just gonna let the transmission do its thing. So I'm sorry to say, but it seems like the XM likes to just do its own thing doesn't really like you to shift it yourself. It doesn't seem to respond to it well. That was pretty fun though, just flooring it and letting it shift it by itself though, and so to speak, automatic mode. It's not an automatic mode, but the transmission shifts by itself if you don't shift it for it, which is surprising to me because I feel like in a true M car, it would just bang off the rev limiter. They wouldn't shift for you. It would just hold the RPMs where it's at. Maybe it's just the braking period though. I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt. I'm still having fun nonetheless. Alright, now we are going to go into full comfort mode. Let's experience the M Lounge, but up front, of course. So now I push my M2 button, goes right into full comfort mode, and right away, of course, steering lightens up quite dramatically. The on-center play increases to about an inch, about an inch and a half, lightens up a lot. And what's funny is the acceleration kind of takes like a lot of time. Like, it's like, you sure? Okay, yeah, you want to go faster? Okay. You floor it and about at least a second goes by before it actually accelerates in full comfort mode. Here, I'll try it again for you guys. Ready? Floor it. And we go. The unfortunate part about the XM is that it's not getting a lot of love from people, and I kind of disagree and agree at the same time. First and foremost, a lot of people don't like this styling. I think that's objective. Of course, that always is. You're going to form your own opinion. Nonetheless, this car is meant to stand out. Whether you think it looks good or not, it gets your attention, and that's kind of what BMW was going for across the board. This is also very pricey at $160,000 when you compare it to the other brands in this performance SUV segment, and even in BMW's own M performance SUV segment. It's not as fast or as capable as some of those cars. But this car is still really, really cool. It's fun to accelerate. It has a very commanding and assertive road presence. You are absolutely noticed in this thing. I also had a blast just poking around this thing and sitting in it and looking at the interior and everything. Like, it's a cool car. And it gives you a feeling of exclusivity without a doubt, whether you're in the M Lounge or behind the wheel. Especially in this color, you're practically like peacocking in this thing. However, because it demands that top tier price tag, I have to agree with a lot of the critics when they say that it's just not M enough, especially during this break-in period. But as far as the luxury is concerned, I think it's quite exceptional. If you are that extrovert that just wants to flex rolling down Ocean Drive, this is the BMW SUV that's going to get people to turn their heads. I truly wish that BMW just marketed it as the X8M or something like that and not dedicated this chassis to the only other M-only car since the M1. Because objectively, this is a cool car. Expensive, yes, but still a cool car. So guys, that wraps up my review of the 2023 BMW XM. Please let me know what you think of the XM in the comments below. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you think it's cool? Do you think it's overpriced? Let me know what you guys think. I also have to thank BMW of Fort Lauderdale so much for letting me borrow this car for the whole day. I really appreciate it. They've been awesome to work with and very accommodating to me. If you are in the South Florida area and interested in a BMW, please go check them out. I will link all of their contact information and website links in the description below. And if you enjoyed the video, please hit that thumbs up and also consider subscribing to my channel. I really appreciate it and it really helps me out to grow. The subscription is free to you guys. It doesn't cost you anything. All it does is help me out and support my channel. So thank you so much. Take care, stay safe out there, and have a great rest of your day.